Hello again. I'm Jeremy Krausen with the Bibb Voice. I'm here today with Superintendent of Bibb County Schools, Dwayne McGee, and the President of the Board of Education, Mike Oakley. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today.
Absolutely.
Or joining us from your homes today, I guess. So basically, I wanted to get everybody together here and talk about things that I know parents all over the county are wondering about at the moment. With basically the school year is going to be distance education for the rest of the year because of the COVID-19. I know y'all have done a lot of work in figuring out what you're going to do with that and how it's going to work exactly. So, and when you put out a statement Friday about some forward thinking of how we're going to do this, and you emphasize that we can do this, and so I want to let you speak on that a little bit, if you will.
Sure. Right. Thank you, Jeremy. And you mentioned a lot of parents have a lot of questions. A lot of teachers have questions too, or they have for the last couple of weeks. We did have a webinar conference with the state superintendent on Friday morning, who shared some information, outlined what this could and should look like. Has put out several facts and guidelines of what this is going to look like these next couple of months of school. We met with all of our principals yesterday morning, and they're working currently. They're working, or probably have already finished, working on schedules for teachers to come into the schools and work. It's important to understand, Jeremy, that the Board of Education here, our employees, we're under the same, strict adherence to guidelines for social distancing and group sizes that's required by the state health officials, the CDC, and that's a challenge for principals to obviously meet with faculty and staff to go over a plan. We just can't bring our faculty into the library and meet with all of them to get the plan out. So principals were charged yesterday morning with the task of creating sort of a daily and weekly schedule of times that teachers this week and from here forward could come in and have access to their classroom and copiers. Obviously didn't want 20, 30 teachers showing up at a school this morning and all in line, waiting to use a copier or some other technology. So that's what principals did yesterday, and contacted the teachers and let them know. Because of the lack of internet access across our county, especially in our rural areas, but we have areas right here in Central where the district office is. I have central office employees that do not have internet access at home other than their cell phones, whatever AT&T or Verizon offers through cellular service. So we feel like probably most of our parents and students would be choosing or limited to packets type of instructional delivery, work packets, very similar to traditional things we called correspondence courses back in the day. It's something that we have done before. Unfortunately, over the years, we have students who have health issues that require them to stay at home for extended periods of time, whether it's something like chemotherapy or recovery from tragic accidents. We've had instances where students have had to remain home and parents pick up their work, help them through it, bring it back to school. So that's what a lot of our students will be doing now. It's just a much greater scale than we've ever been asked to do before.
Yeah, I actually, when I was in high school, I had a surgery and I was out of school for a couple of months and had a homebound teacher, and so she
Right.
brought the packets and stuff. And
Well,
thinking about
that's
how that worked, that's where my because let me show this right quick. Mike had sent me a picture of everyone. Can y'all see that? I'm
There it
that's
is.
hoping this
our
works
meeting.
right. Yeah, this was the meeting that y'all had yesterday with all the principals in the Board of Education auditorium. And you at the podium there. So y'all are spaced out effectively, making sure that nobody's touching anybody else. And that's great. You know, keeping the social distancing down. How do you intend to keep that same social distancing down with the parents coming to pick up physical packets? Because as you said, you know, not everybody is going to be able to download stuff and work.
Well, similar in the way that we've done some of our meal pickups in the last couple of weeks. It would be a curbside front of the school curbside type pickup where our employees will we'll probably be wearing masks and gloves to hand off a packet and pick them up. It could be depending on parents their schedules and their times. It could be that some of this material is like teachers have done with the optional enrichment material over the last couple of weeks, leave it in tubs or containers out in front of the school with each kid's name and teacher and grade on it, where the parents could just come and pick it up. I don't know that there's any perfect foolproof way of getting instructional packets like this.
I think, Dwayne, one thing that's happened during this pandemic is that people are taking it upon themselves to social distance, especially in a setting like that. I mean, I know we issue guidance, stay 6 feet apart, no gatherings more. And but I think from what I've seen is that individuals are taking it upon themselves to wear masks, wear gloves when appropriate, and to kind of take that on themselves to social distance, like to drive up, you know, get their package drive through, almost kind of like a drive through food place that are the places that are going.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mike. The people do seem to be taking it a little more serious here lately, with especially now that we have some confirmed cases in Bibb County. We have
I've heard a
two
lot
now.
of buzz about that lately.
Yeah,
Days, social media messaging. Who is it? Where are they located? So people are really taking it serious.
yeah. Everybody's sort of. I don't want to say scared, but everybody's sort of apprehensive about the whole situation. It seems like,
No kidding.
and, you know, rightfully so. We've got over 3,000 deaths in the United States as of today. Um, and we have, I think I saw the numbers while ago, were 13 in Alabama. I was going to show that graphic too, but for some reason I have lost it on my screen here. I don't know where I put it. Um, anyway, um, yeah, so people definitely are not wanting to be in direct contact with each other, and hopefully that's going to slow some of the store trips for some people. I know Walmart keeps being really crowded, but every time I drive by, the parking lot looks insane. But
And Jeremy, thanks to Walmart for doing the senior shopping option
yeah,
in the morning from like 6 to 7. I know we've got a lot of our teachers that unfortunately fit into that senior, I think, 60 and over. And I know we got board members that are, but that's a pretty good thing, keeping them separated from the general public.
right. Yeah, I think that is a really good thing. Everybody, the stores around here are doing a good job with all that kind of stuff, and making sure that shopping carts have uh, disinfectants available and things like that. Um, back on to distribution of packets and stuff. I'm not sure exactly how some things work on a day to day in the school system. Obviously, I'm not a teacher, but I do know that certain special needs students have certain requirements that Yeah, they need some special attention, special
Right, right.
instruction kind of thing. How
Well,
do you think you'd be
well,
dealing with that?
well, Jeremy, our directives from Superintendent Eric Mackey were very clear on Friday morning. There's to be absolutely zero face-to-face interaction between employees or teachers and students, any students. Um, Obviously, that creates an issue for many of our students with disabilities that require occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, that generally require, I think what you're mentioning are talking about, very specifically one-on-one interaction.
Right.
But that, in light of the pandemic and everyone's need to stay as socially distanced as possible, that's just not something that can be done right now. And it is those are things that enter many of our students' IEPs to receive occupational therapy so often or physical therapy so often. And in light of the current situation, those services just can't be provided at this time. It may mean compensatory services once the meeting bans are lifted, but absolutely under no circumstance is there to be any, personal one-on-one face-to-face interaction between employees and students.
Just an unfortunate,
It is. It's
unfortunate thing,
unfortunate, but
it can't be
but
avoided at this point.
when you're limited by social distancing and lack of that personal contact, it is you it's just a service that our employees can't provide from home or from a distance.
Right.
Now we will meet the needs of our special education population in the very best efforts that we can. And it is a question that's still out there. We're still receiving some technical guidance and assistance on that. But I think what you're mentioning, what about, PT, OT, things like that, they're just not going to be available at this time. And that's
Right.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate side effect of this, really. But to keep everybody safe, that's understandable. Um, what about again, sort of with the um, I know y'all were doing meals with pickups from the school.
Right.
Is that going to continue or pick back up
Well,
after?
we are providing meals at some pickup points this week. I think it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think this week we've been partnering with West Alabama Food Bank to hand out those meals at Woodstock School, West Blockton Elementary School, and Bibb County High School for the pickup points for those. Either that partnership will continue. I've got to make a few phone calls today. We would like to look at, us using our own CNP program, our own employees, to start, preparing the grab and go meals, the pickup meals. But that's something that we'll really have to look at financially, the cost of the food and the cost of paying our employees. And it's been just a much better partnership so far with the West Alabama Food Bank. But we do plan on continuing in some shape, form, or fashion of providing meals picked up, for the students, multiple days at a time, like possibly a pickup on Monday for 10 meals, 5 breakfasts, 5 lunch for the week. Or whatever the West Alabama Food Bank, whatever their protocols and procedures are. But we will look to continue in one way or the other of providing meals available for pickup at certain pickup points in the county. And that's gone well so far.
Oh, that's good. That's good that y'all have been able to do that and coordinate with West Alabama Food Bank on that. So, I just got a list of questions here. What about, how are y'all intending to handle testing? Is there going to be any sort of remote proctoring, or how is that going to work?
Well, we've made the decision that in grades 7 through 12, all students will be exempt from final exam. We've had a attendance policy that was just reinstituted this fall of the exam exemption policy for students in grades 7 through 12 who have to take final or semester exams. All students in grades 7 through 12 will be exempt from semester exams. To answer your question, as far as proctoring any assignments, assessments, work, that'll have to be performed by the parents. That's where we are right now. There's no other way to proctor that, and students will be receiving assignments to work at home as their parents work with them to complete those assignments. The work will be returned and graded by the teachers, and the students will receive a fourth 9-week grade based on the assignments returned, by the end of the semester. So that's how students' fourth 9-week grade will be determined, and then all other averaging for student final course grades will be conducted as they always have been. It's just that all 7th through 12th grade students will be exempt from exams, and I'm sure all the kids will be glad to hear that.
Yeah, everybody will be happy about
no
that.
final exam,
no
final
finals.
exams,
Yeah.
right? Just do the work and assignments that you have sent home, either in the packets. I'm sure we may have several parents that will choose a virtual option on content and lesson delivery, but students will be graded on the work and assignments that they're given between April 6th and the end of May, and that will determine their grade. And their parents and people at home, older brothers and sisters, will help them with that. That's just the reality we're in right now, and that's what we're going with. It's a different world for us and our students, but given the parameters we have to work with, that's what we're doing. And while I mentioned, I haven't discussed this with Mr. Oakley, but Dr. Mackey did. He and the governor said that the school year would go through. Our schools would be closed through June the 5th, but each local board can set their own last date. I probably plan to recommend May the 29th, Friday, May the 29th, as the last date for our students to get work and assignments turned in. That'll be a board decision. The board can make that decision, but we were given that leeway that June 5th is the last date that the state has determined that school can last. But it's up to each local education authority to determine any date prior to that. So I'll probably be recommending at the next board meeting that our end date would be May the 29th. Okay. That just gives our students, our end date was going to be, our students' last day was going to be, or May the 21st, Thursday, May 21st. So that gives our students another 10 to 12 days to complete work and assignments at home. I think that's a good idea.
All right. Well, that's great. Yeah, that'll be, it's good that they extended that. Speaking of the end of the year, how will there be any sort of graduation ceremony at all, or is that sort of up in the air at this point?
No. Again, the directive was clear from the State Department of Education that schools are closed, school campuses are closed, and that did include any off-campus. We haven't done this. We've kicked around the idea of possibly holding graduation exercises indoors at University of Montevallo. We've never come to that decision, but even school systems that use a local university's auditorium, like Tuscaloosa City and County have used Coleman Coliseum, those are off the table because those colleges and they've closed their campuses. So
Right.
at this time, all graduations across the state are canceled through June 5th. Assuming that the closure and is ended by then and the pandemic has lessened and social gathering restrictions are lifted by the health department, we could hold graduation exercises after June 5th at some point in the summer. And certainly we will, I'm sure we'll try to do something to have a graduation ceremony, but at this time it will not be until or after June 5th.
Okay. That makes sense.
Prom, field trips, proms, everything is
Yeah.
canceled. Nothing's going on the school campuses. All athletic team events, trainings, workouts. We're completely shut down on each campus across the state through June 5th.
Yeah, got to be so. In terms of Board of Education staff and resources and things like that, are y'all planning to add any additional resources or more help, more staff or anything?
Well, I don't know as far as adding. We do have some part-time employees that we've used here at the central office that we will make available to teachers. We have some high-speed copiers here at the district office that we use for mass copying. A lot of our teachers utilize it throughout the year. If you've got hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, we do that here at the district office. So we do have some part-time employees that we will make available to help with the load of expected correspondence packets, from school to home. So that is one thing that I could say, well, it's not additional because we've always used these part-time employees, but this is something that they can do and really help out our teachers that want to utilize that service.
Right. What about, I know one thing that some parents are concerned about is their own ability to be able to help their kids out with the material. Are the teachers going to be more available to help the parents?
Yeah. First of all, the directive from this office. Well, let me back up. Dr. Mackey was again very clear on Friday morning that all assignments pushed out to students at home would be strictly limited to critical standards in math, science, social studies, language arts, as defined by the group that he had, the task force in preparation for school closing.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, that means, generally all K through 6 students, generally K through 5, K through 6, pretty much your whole school day is math, reading, science, and social studies. The core standards, each course has a list of multiple standards that teachers have to cover throughout the year. The State Department of Education has defined, of those, let's say a course has 32 standards to be covered, the Alabama State Department of Education has defined maybe 17 or 18 of those standards as being critical. So teachers will be limited strictly to covering those critical standards as determined by the State Department in math courses, science courses, reading, language arts, and social studies. Um, to as far as high school students, that does also include graduation requirements. So those courses will be assigned to students. That would be your life PE course. Excuse me, that's my phone ringing. That would be life PE course, the health course that students are currently taking, any career tech, world languages, or arts classes that are required for graduation. High school students have to choose between art, career tech, and foreign language, Spanish. They have to have several of those courses as a graduation requirement. So those courses are still on the table. What students will not be required to do would be any elective courses in high school, such as a mythology course, um, constitutional law, any courses that they're taking as an elective that's not required for graduation. Those courses will end technically at the end of the third 9 weeks, unless a student, if a student was failing an elective course, they can choose to receive additional assignments to try and bring their grade up to a passing grade. But otherwise, all high school students taking an elective course, and even some middle school students, if it's an elective course, they will receive. They're technically considered completed that course at the end of the third 9 weeks. All other students, your maths, your sciences, your social studies, your English classes, they will be receiving work in those packets that's limited strictly to those critical standards as determined by the State Department of Education.
So just the basics then, pretty much.
Right, just your meat and potatoes,
Right.
there, and I also want to, to share with parents that are nervous and teachers are nervous. Our message to teachers, you know, students should not be receiving anywhere more than between 2 to 3 hours or so per day total of work assignments. So if you've got a fourth grader, math, science, social studies, and English all together combined, teachers should keep that to around 2 to 3 hours of engagement per day, or around 15 hours a week. Some of our teachers, they're going to have to be careful about that. We certainly can't and don't want to overwhelm our parents who are nervous about now being in charge of their students' education. So, teachers, principals were instructed yesterday to pass this information along to their faculties that in these required courses, math, science, social studies, English, no more than 2 to 3 hours per day of student engagement. That includes any reading assignments prior to working out any questions or problems, 2 to 3 hours a day. We know that we have parents that work and aren't home with students all day to help them, and may only have a precious 2 to 3 hours, in the evening,
Right.
between supper and bedtime to help their students with their work. Many of our students, they have that intrinsic motivation. They'll receive the work, they'll do it. The ones that need help, yes, absolutely. Our teachers are on the job, even though they're working from home, and we want them to stay at home as much as possible.
Right.
Principals have been, advised to tell their faculties, if you need to come to school, come to your classroom, come during only your defined designated time, get your materials, get your copying done that you need done, get back home. But our teachers are still accountable to answer emails and any phone calls and return any phone calls and maintain communication with parents and students. That's something that is, it's just an expectation for our teachers that, you're home, you are getting paid, you're continuing to get paid, and our expectation from the district is that you continue to be available to help out parents with questions. the email a
Right.
question or
Yeah.
have a concern. Students, all of our students have email accounts through our. It's not actually our bibb.org account, but BC Schools. Every one of our students that's capable and able to email a teacher can do that. So teachers
The
are
teachers are
they're
still
there to be
teaching
available.
right now. Yeah.
They are still available, and they are expected. The expectation from their principal and their superintendent is that as soon as they get a query or question from a student, a lot of our teachers use different apps like the Remind app and other things where students can ask questions, and there are a lot of apps that our teachers use. Now, obviously, some of our students don't have that technology, but absolutely, teachers are expected to still be fully engaged with each and every one of their students when that student has a need, a question, or the parent does. To
Right.
every extent possible of getting and answering emails in a timely manner, returning phone calls or texts. And I know our teachers are going to step up to the challenge, and they're going to do their jobs. But it is sort of a new reality that we're in here these next
Yeah.
8 weeks.
It's a whole new world, and
It is.
it could be that this affects long-term plans and how school is operated in the future. Who knows? But
Well,
hopefully, it won't be exactly this going forward. But there could be some distance education changes and things
there
possible.
will be, and again, my message that I included in a social media post over the weekend or last week. My hope and expectation is this will be a wake up call to our government elected officials in the state and in Washington to increase spending for rural broadband throughout our country. If anything, this national emergency that we're all going through right now magnifies the need for our students and parents in our rural areas to have internet access.
Absolutely,
It
that is a
is.
big deal right now.
I have central office administrators that they have to drive into town here from out in the sticks where I grew up in
Yeah.
Lolly and Randolph and Pondville and Eolin and River Bend and Marvel, and there are places
Most of the county
they
here
do
really
not
doesn't have.
have internet access,
Right.
and a lot of it's you think, and we see a lot of our students, even fifth and sixth graders with cell phones and things, and you think, well, gosh, we have so many people that are connected, technically, connected through wireless internet, but a cell phone's not really the greatest tool
Right.
always for
And
receiving and completing
those kids that
instructions.
live in
Unless we come up with a way to teach through Snapchat.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
Well, now hold on. We don't encourage that, right?
No snapping.
Not
Yeah.
right now. But there are apps that our teachers are
True.
using with students, like the Remind app with parents, and that's great. It's good, and it will continue to work. But what we have to remember is not all of our students have that technology available, and even our parents. I'm encouraged and glad to know that AT&T and Verizon and Sprint and a lot of them have opened up to unlimited data plans from now
That's
through
great.
June. That's great, but there still may be some of our parents and students that don't have that access, or they have data restrictions that they just don't have. A lot of our students we know have the sort of the burner type phones, the Walmart plans. Nothing negative against Walmart, but they don't have the unlimited data.
Right. You're not going to have that. And lots of
because
plans, regardless of your service, you're not going to have good data signal out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. For streaming
Right.
videos and lessons like that. So it's important, for our teachers to realize, and many of them do, that just because they know a student has a digital device, a smartphone, they might not have the data package or the reception in their home for
Right.
streaming videos and teleconferencing and things like that. So that's why I feel like just so many of our parents and students will be taking the the old school traditional packet type work, and that it's not ideal, but it can work and it will work, and that's where we are.
It'll get the job done. It's going to take a lot of dedication and determination by everybody. But as you said in your message, we can do this.
Oh, we can.
Yeah,
We
I
can do
think it'll
this,
work.
and we will do this. We're all going to come through this together. We're going to do this together. It won't be without some growing pains and some. I just released a message on our Facebook page. We just created over the weekend. I asked Mr. Wes Lally to create us a district Facebook page. We've had a Twitter account for several years now since I came into office. We've got a Bibb County Schools Twitter account that we've pushed out, media type recognition and coverage. But I asked Wes over the weekend to set us up a Facebook account because so many of our parents do use Facebook that don't have Twitter or use Twitter.
Right.
And with this pandemic and the school closures, it just seemed like one of the easiest, quickest ways, in addition to our all-call phone system, would be for us to push out information on Facebook. So we've set that up, and just this morning before our conference here, I put out another message outlining several of the things that I've talked about today. But a metaphor I've heard several times in reading different web blogs and education chat rooms and things like that is, either we're building this bridge as we walk across it, or we're flying this plane as we build it. Some
Right.
metaphor like that, but that's truly what's going on for a lot of educators and parents across the state and country at this time, is this whole method of distance learning on a grand scale. And there are going to be some ups and downs and some growing pains, but we can get through this, and we will get through it, and we'll get through it together. And again, I hope that in the future, if anything comes out of this event positive, it's that our government sees the need and necessity for our education, just our national security, to extend broadband internet into our rural areas, which many of us in Bibb County grew up and live and continue to live in our rural areas.
Absolutely. I think that's probably, you're right. That's, if anything good is to come of this, hopefully it'll be that, and
My
we
mom
won't have that
Sunday,
deficiency anymore.
I was down at my mom's Sunday, and her dish network went out. But I said, Mom, my brother Daryl, he got you this Fire Stick, so I can set up the Netflix for you. So she has to pull out her little Verizon hotspot that she's limited on data package, but I got it set up so she could watch her Netflix until her dish network gets brought up. But again, that's what so many of our rural people are limited to, is a little hotspot that really doesn't provide a good clear stream. It's good for emails and things like that, but not always for video streaming and things of that nature. So
Exactly.
Jeremy, one thing we probably need to add is Mr. McGee sent out a masterful guidance letter concerning the COVID-19 plans and all, and in it he iterated that we're looking at this as, yes, it's a challenge, yes, it's unprecedented, but we're looking at it as an opportunity. And and as I read it, of course, being a military guy for 39 years and being a student of history, previous generations have been asked to give so much more and to sacrifice so much more, and not that long ago. And there will be people, as Mr. McGee said, that that will unfairly look at this as an imposition or a burden, and it's not of our doing. It's just this is what it is. We're all in it together. And the tip of a spear is sharp and pointed for a purpose. It has a specific mission, and that's what we're looking at. Our teachers, Thea mentioned that our students are going through distance learning, some for the first time ever, but our teachers are also going through distance teaching. And this is when we come out of this, my vision, my prayer, I guess you'd say, is that teachers their focus will be more sharpened. This will identify parents who are good already, and I'm hoping that it will make some of those parents who are on the edge better parents for having to be a part of their child's life. We live in such a busy time that it's so easy. You spend an hour on Facebook and you look and you go, well, shoot, I could have been talking to the kids about their day. And I heard yesterday somebody say, the bright side of this is that this is the most time I've spent with my children and us as a family in years. And so there are positives to every negative, and we look at it as this is the glass half full, not half empty. And there'll be naysayers and boo birds, who will critique and get down on things we do, and we're charged with doing the best we can with the information we have and the limitations we have. Speaking of broadband, and also Dwayne talked about it earlier. When we get out of this, I fully expect the government to be a wake-up call for broadband connectivity, almost in a national emergency type deal. I mean, there will be times, I hope it's not catastrophic times, but that everybody will need to be connected in some way to get messages, to get information out, to receive information. And our job, I think, as a board, me as the board president, to inform the other board members about what's going on, but also to tell them to lift spirits, a rising tide floats all boats type mentality. And I think Mr. McGee's really set the tone, in this. We've been proactive. And also, I don't know if you mentioned, we sent out a survey to find out who was connected, who was not connected. We'll get the results on that out, and that'll give us a sharper focus on what we need to do as a board of education.
That's true too. I noticed that yesterday. I forgot to mention it, that you have the survey out, and that's a good thing. I think there's been some great points made here today. We're running a little bit long on time here. Hopefully, people are still paying attention because you guys have kept adding some good information and good ideas. I want to thank you both for talking to us today, and hopefully we can do this again soon as things need to. If
Jeremy, it's an honor to serve our community.
I'm glad you're doing so, sir, for both of you. So thank you so much, Dwayne and Mike, and
thank you.
We will let you go and stay with the we can do this mentality, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.